Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have warned of consequences if the foreign troops delay withdrawal past the August 31 deadline over the ongoing evacuations. Talking to the media, Taliban spokesman Suhail Shaheen said the move would mean an extended occupation, which he termed as a red line. Meanwhile, the group has appointed Haji Mohammad Idris as the acting head of the Afghanistan Central Bank to help bring order to a war-crippled economy. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says India is playing a negative role in Afghanistan. Speaking to reporters, he said Islamabad is partner in peace and ready to work with any country for stability in Afghanistan. He added that Pakistan has evacuated 542 foreign nationals from Afghanistan since the 16th of August. In occupied Kashmir, Indian troops have martyred 2 civilians during a so-called cordon and search operation in Srinagar district. The occupation forces have killed over 400 Kashmiris since New Delhi's illegal revocation of the Indus Special status in August 2019. India has recorded more than 25,000 new coronavirus cases and 389 deaths in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 80 more people lost their lives to the virus and over 3,700 tested positive overnight. Globally, the coronavirus caseload has surpassed 211 million, while the death toll is over 4.4 million. Those were the headlines and detailed stories. Right after a short break, stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have warned of consequences if the foreign troops delay withdrawal past the August 31 deadline over the ongoing evacuations. Talking to the media, Taliban spokesman Suhail Shaheen said the move would mean an extended occupation, which he termed as a red line. This comes after US President Joe Biden said the airlift of Americans and tens of thousands of others from Kabul is accelerating, but said he would not rule out extending the evacuations beyond the August 31 deadline set before the Taliban's swift takeover. Meanwhile, the group has appointed Haji Mohammad Idris as the acting head of Afghanistan Central Bank to help bring order to a war-crippled economy. The appointment came as Afghan government-run and private banks have remained closed since August 15, when the Taliban took control of Kabul. Meanwhile, the Taliban have taken control of 3 districts near the Panjshir Valley in northern Afghanistan. This comes a day after the anti-Taliban groups claimed to seize these districts of Baghlan province. Spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid says the Bannu, Pul-e-Hisar and Der Salah districts have been completely cleared of opposing forces. He said the group has seized Panjshir and is trying to resolve the situation peacefully. Earlier, Ahmad Massoud, the son of anti-Soviet resistance leader Ahmad Shah Massoud, refused to surrender the areas in his control. He called for the formation of a comprehensive government with the participation of the Taliban, but warned of an unavoidable war if the group refuses to hold dialogue. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says India is playing a negative role in Afghanistan. Speaking to reporters, he expressed hope that the new Afghan leadership will not let their soil be used against Pakistan. He said Islamabad is a partner in peace and ready to work with any country for stability in Afghanistan. Qureshi said the world is acknowledging Pakistan's efforts for the safe evacuation of people from Kabul airport. He said Pakistan has evacuated 542 foreign nationals since the 16th of August. The foreign minister also expressed hope that a political vacuum in Afghanistan will end soon. Indian troops martyred to two civilians in occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Srinagar district. They were targeted during a so-called search operation in the city area of the district. Indian troops have killed over 400 Kashmiris since New Delhi's illegal revocation of the valley's special status in August 2019. Pakistan has repeatedly called for an international probe into the extrajudicial killings of Kashmiris at the hands of Indian forces. In India's capital, New Delhi, cases of women's rape have increased by 43%, while overall crime against women has jumped by 63%. Overall, the country sees 88 women rape cases every single day, which means 3 women are raped in India every hour. More in this report.
In the year 2019, Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi called India the rape capital of the world due to the shockingly high number of gruesome sexual violence cases. 2 years after that statement, the situation in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's so-called Shining India is getting even worse. Recent crime data released by Delhi police shows that Modi's India has become increasingly unsafe for women. Crimes against women have soared 63% higher, with 833 women raped only in the capital so far this year. Female molestation has increased 39%, with 226 women murdered. Most recent data by India's National Crime Records Bureau shows that 88 women are raped every day in India, which makes it 3 every hour. According to the World Population Review, over 22 women were raped in India in 2021, which is second only to South Africa with 66,000. The special Indian NGO for children called CRY says minors are the biggest victims of sexual assaults in India. They said it has increased by a whopping 500% over the past decade, and now one sexual crime against children in India every 15 minutes. India's Ministry of Women Development has also pointed out that sexual harassment in government offices is rising. In fact, the state of affairs of women's rights in India can be measured by the fact that killing a girl right after her birth is on the rise in the country.
For more on this, we are joined by Cynthia Ritchie, a social activist from Islamabad. Ritchie, thank you very much for your time. India is overzealous about pointing fingers at other countries, while its own government data shows that the women in India are becoming increasingly unsafe. What do you believe is the chief cause behind this?
I believe that this is classic distraction, deferred deflection, unfortunately, on behalf of the Indian government's part. They are largely seeing Pakistan as an increasing economic threat. And again, it's most unfortunate at the risk of the relations between the people that India, unfortunately, is clouded by its own obfuscation techniques.
A research by an Indian NGO for children has revealed that minors in India are a chief target of sexual crimes that have increased 500% over the past decade. What do you think the Indian government failed to prevent this exponential increase?
I think the Indian government, unfortunately, again, continues to be preoccupied with its own image abroad to the point to where it's self-delusional internally.
So, Cynthia, after the horrific New Delhi rape incident that shook the world in 2019, the Indian government blamed films and media for it. Do you agree that these really are the root causes?
I do believe that media, film, TVs can portray a vast narrative that is largely controlled by the Indian government. And if it's controlled by the Indian government, which of course it would be, then the Indian government would ultimately be responsible for these unfortunate psychological influence operations on its own people.
So, Cynthia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi projects this image of shining India globally. Is it fair to see GDP as the only matrix of national development when thousands of women and children suffer through sexual crimes every year in India?
Absolutely not. You have to look at online metrics, but more importantly, online reality. And unfortunately, the bias that we're seeing is just not portraying an accurate reality of the people's needs. The people of India are a lovely people. The people of Pakistan are a lovely people. And it's to the benefits of regional peace and stability in authentic terms for the government to get extract its head out of this.
Cynthia Ritchie, thank you very much for talking to Indus News. We really appreciate that. And now moving on, Israeli troops have martyred a Palestinian youth in the Arab city of Nazareth. Witnesses say the occupation forces also injured another Palestinian man with 5 bullets. In occupied Jerusalem, dozens of illegal settlers under the protection of Israeli army stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque. Earlier, the occupation army also raided the archaeological area in Sebastia, northwest of Nablus. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch says by destroying 4 high-rise buildings in Gaza City in May, Israel violated the laws of war. Palestinian groups in Gaza also pledged to continue protests along the border to pressure Israel to remove its blockade. This comes amid outrage over the reports of Egypt closing the Rafah crossing on its border with the Gaza Strip until further notice. The US says it does not have hostile intent towards Pyongyang and is open for dialogue anytime and any place. The country's special envoy, Sung Kim, said this while addressing media after meeting with his South Korean counterpart in Seoul. The two sides held a talk on resumption of dialogue with Pyongyang amid the renewed tensions over the allies' ongoing military drills. They also discussed possible humanitarian aid to the country. Sung said the ongoing US-South Korea military exercises are long-standing, routine, and purely defensive in nature. The US-led coalition says it has shot down a drone in eastern Syria in the vicinity of a mission support site, Green Village. Coalition spokesperson Colonel Wayne Marato said a fighter jet shot down the unmanned aerial vehicle after it was deemed a threat. But he didn't reveal the details that who launched the drone. The Green Village base was established in 2018 to protect the largest Umar oil field in Deir az-Zor. The Arab coalition says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by Yemen's Houthis towards southern Saudi Arabia. In a statement, the Arab coalition said Houthis attempted to target Khamis Mushaid city in the latest strike. The coalition said Houthis continue to deliberately and systematically target civilian infrastructure. The coalition said it is taking operational measures to foil attempts to target populated areas and civilian objects in the kingdom. Meanwhile, the UN has called on the Yemen's warring parties to silence the guns and to fully implement the Hudaida agreement. Iran's new administration says it is willing to engage in reasonable negotiations to revive the 2015 nuclear deal with the world. Iran's foreign minister designate Hossein Amir Abdullahian announced that new Iran government will not tie itself to the deal. He said Iran will never turn away from a dialogue table. However, he said the negotiations must serve the Iranian people's interests. Earlier, Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi censured Japan for refusing to release Tehran's frozen assets in Tokyo's banks. In a meeting with the Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi, Raisi said the delay in unfreezing of assets cannot be justified. Iran says it is ready to ship more fuel to the crisis-stricken Lebanon if needed. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh said Tehran sells oil and products at the request of its clients. This comes a day after Hezbollah Hassan Nasrallah said the first vessel shipping Iranian fuel to Lebanon set sailed. He also said more vessels carrying Iranian fuel would sail soon to help ease the country's fuel shortage. Nasrallah said the current crisis in Lebanon is a sign of a war waged against Hezbollah, which is being led by the US Embassy in Beirut. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Pakistan's COVID-19 death toll has surpassed 25,000 with 80 more fatalities reported in the past 24 hours. The country's health ministry reported more than 3,700 positive cases overnight as the caseload exceeds 1.12 million. The ministry said more than 1 million people have recovered so far, while over 5,300 are in critical condition. Meanwhile, 46.4 million vaccine doses have been administered so far across the country, and more than 13.4 million have been fully vaccinated. India has recorded more than 25,000 new coronavirus cases and 389 deaths in the past 24 hours. Globally, the caseload has surpassed 211 million, but the death toll is over 4.4 million. More in this report.
The nations reel under reimposed drastic curbs as authorities struggle to rein in outbreaks of the Indian Delta variant of the coronavirus. As the winter season approaches, experts warn that flu jabs could fail to protect this season, as COVID-19 prevented laboratories from gathering sufficient data on dominant variants. Vietnam has reported its deadliest day since the pandemic started, while the country enters the first day of strict lockdown. New Zealand has extended its lockdown until Friday, with Auckland likely to remain shut beyond that. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the country must begin to ease strict COVID-19 restrictions once vaccination rates increase.
And we must adjust our mindset. Cases will not be the issue once we get above 70%. Dealing with serious illness, hospitalisation, ICU capabilities, our ability to respond in those circumstances, that will be our goal. And we will live with this virus as we live with other infectious diseases. That's what the national plan is all about, was always about. That's how we designed it, and that's how it needs to be implemented.
China's health authority reported no new locally transmitted cases of COVID-19 for the first time since July. Meanwhile, Taiwan announced it will administer its domestically developed COVID-19 vaccine. In India, experts warned of an imminent third wave and sought better medical preparedness for children who might be at similar risk as adults. Iran has reported its highest single-day COVID-19 death toll of the pandemic.
Russia and Turkey are close to signing a new contract to supply Ankara with additional S-400 air defense units. The CEO of the Russian state arms exporter, Alexander Mikheyev, said the consultations are at the final stage. He said Moscow will start formalizing a contract with Ankara in the near future. Turkey became the first NATO member to purchase a Russian-made ballistic defense system in 2017. Turkey's initial purchase of S-400s from Russia strained ties with the US and its NATO allies. Washington sanctioned Ankara and threatened to impose new curbs if it buys more arms systems from Moscow. The Ukraine, Germany and the US have agreed that Russia cannot use Nord Stream 2 as a geopolitical weapon. The energy ministers of the three countries met on the sidelines of the Crimea platform in Kiev. Talking to media, Ukraine's energy minister Herman Halushenko said three sides discussed guarantees about the Ukraine's future as a transit country after the construction of the pipeline. Speaking alongside him, German Energy Minister Peter Altmaier voiced Berlin's support for Kiev's transition to renewable energy. Earlier, German Chancellor Angela Merkel met Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev, reassuring that Ukraine's interests would be protected. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has reaffirmed Washington's commitment to keep the disputed South China Sea open. She said this during a joint press conference with Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Earlier, both leaders expressed mutual support for a stable, rules-based international order in the region. They also announced cooperation in new areas of cybersecurity, climate and economy. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Lee reaffirmed Singapore's appreciation for Washington's active role in the Asia-Pacific. The Vice President is on a visit to Southeast Asia in a bid to bolster ties with regional partners as part of the US efforts to counter China's growing influence. Bandits have released 15 more students kidnapped last month from a Baptist school in northwest Nigeria. The school officials said the students were released after parents paid an undisclosed amount of ransom to the kidnappers. Armed bandits raided a university and abducted more than 100 students on July 5 from the school in Kaduna State. Baptist Convention President Israel Akonji said 63 more students are yet to be released. Kaduna State schools remain closed due to the threat of kidnappings as bandits have abducted over 1,000 students for ransom since December. In Mexico, a mother and her 5 children have died after Hurricane Grace triggered a landslide in the state of Veracruz. There were somber scenes as the deceased were laid to rest. According to reports, the youngest victim was just 15 days old. The father and a 7-year-old who is in hospital are the only survivors of the family. Grace slammed into Veracruz as a Category 3 hurricane, blowing maximum sustained winds of over 200 kilometers per hour. A total of 8 deaths have been attributed to the hurricane so far. In the US, the Calder fire burning for a week in Northern California continues to grow out of control amid fast winds. It has destroyed hundreds of houses and forced thousands of people to evacuate. The fire that has been burning since 14th of August in the drought-stricken state and has charred nearly 154 square miles of area. Erratic winds sent embers flying into tinder-dry fuel beds, starting new ignition points. Meanwhile, in Greece, another blaze broke out on the country's second largest island of Evia. Officials say the fire was contained after several hours of hard fighting. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Paris's Arc de Triomphe monument will be enveloped in a shimmering wrapper in a posthumous installation by artist Christo. More in this report.
The envelopment of the world-recognized Arc de Triomphe monument is a tribute to the late artist couple Christo and Jean-Claude, who dreamed for decades of the project.
Christo said, I would only like to wrap the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. That's the one thing I really would like to do. And then what happened was they said, okay, and they talked to Philippe Ballaval, who is the president of the Center of Monument National, who loved the idea, and he brought it to President Macron, and that's how the whole thing happened and started in 2017.
Workers have erected scaffolding around 19th century arc to set it up for the silvery blue recyclable plastic wrapping. The monument will be on view between September 18 and October 3rd this year.
Now we have another month to go before the opening. So most of the steel, as you can see, the steel to protect is installed, the cable system is installed, the votes are installed, the weights at the bottom are installed. And right now we are placing the protection for the little corniche where the cherry picker is there now.
Christopher Javashev was known for his larger-than-life installations. Christo wrapped up a stretch of coastline in Australia and the Reichstag Parliament building in Berlin. He also worked closely with Jean-Claude and covered Paris's Pont Neuf Bridge in yellow cloth in 1975.
Bitcoin has hit $50,000 to hit a 3-month high as the cryptocurrency continues to rebound. The unit climbed around 2%, its highest since mid-May. The digital coin rose above that level on Sunday, according to data from Coin Metrics. Bitcoin hit an all-time high with over $64,000 in April, but sold off heavily in June and July. The value of the entire crypto market stands above $2.16 trillion. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.